There are a few images that spring to mind when considering the decline of the Marvel Cinematic Empire. The infamous CGI disaster from Black Widow, the recent appearance of a Shark Boy and Lava Girl character in Ant-Man, and of course the image that will probably never be topped. All of those images speak to different problems. The oversaturation of MCU content, which has caused VFX artists to work on unfeasible timetables, the increased prominence of political themes, and the general sense that Marvel is sort of making things up as they go at this point. But enough time has been spent pointing to those very real problems. What I want to talk about in this video is a personal feeling I've had about the MCU and why the magic went away for me, on top of the aforementioned reasons. I don't read Marvel comics, I didn't go see Endgame 191 times, but I was a pretty big fan of the MCU. I saw almost all the films opening night, and some of my best memories in a movie theater were during those opening nights. But after watching a bit of Phase 4 content, my interest just sort of died away. The reason was unclear for a while. The shows that I watched were pretty good. I enjoyed Loki, Hawkeye, and most of WandaVision. All of those shows are led by great actors who play their characters incredibly well, but at most they were just a half decent way to burn 30 minutes to an hour. But looking back, I believe it was the introduction of Disney Plus that numbed me to MCU content, and not just because of superhero fatigue. With Phase 4, Disney tried to do two things that just could not work in concert. They wanted to enlarge the MCU by introducing the multiverse, while simultaneously shrinking the viewing experience with Disney Plus. The MCU was intended to be the cinematic universe for the most powerful heroes fighting the most important battles, and during the Infinity Saga, they achieved that, no question. One key to their success was patience. Iron Man begins his story by fighting terrorists in the Middle East, and I know I'm not the only one who watched the scene 100 times, and he ends his story by fighting an intergalactic conqueror for half of all life in the universe. In between those 2 points is a steady buildup of stakes, on Earth and in the wider universe. And almost every time the stakes are raised, you feel it. I remember being in the theater when the Chitauri arrived in the Avengers, and you could feel the tension in the room rise. Hundreds of people at that moment shared the same feeling. We wanted Tony and Cap and the other Avengers to kick ass, we wanted Loki to be humbled, and when he was, it felt amazing. With the arrival of Thanos, Marvel had a saga defining villain who seriously threatened every hero. And when he snapped his fingers in Infinity War, it was like being in a funeral. The entire theater was dead silent apart from a few people sniffling. It was unbelievable. I think I went to go see it a couple days later just to see how people would react. And if you look at how many views theater reaction videos get online, I'm sure many other people did the same thing. The Marvel Cinematic Universe had a deep connection to the movie theater that could only really be compared to Star Wars. It didn't matter if the Avengers were fighting to save the world or Spider Man was just fighting to win Tony's approval. If you wanted to enter the world of superheroes, you went to the movie theater. There was some preparation and planning needed to experience these stories. And once you finally got in the theater and the Marvel theme music started, you were in it, good movie or bad. And there were some bad Marvel movies during the first three phases, no doubt. But at the very least, you got the end credit scenes, which put you in the know to what was coming next. Disney Plus opened another portal into the MCU. With the release of WandaVision, you no longer needed to haul yourself out to the theater to watch new MCU content. You could wait until midnight, take out your iPhone, and watch the story unfold while you're half asleep in bed. And instead of feeling the instant reaction of the crowd around you, reactions to Disney Plus content were to be found on social media. It made things too easy. Now, after Endgame, there was an assumption that the MCU would tone down the stakes slightly. That was one of the selling points of WandaVision. People imagined it being a personal psychological drama, but that did not end up being the case. It seemed like it might be early on, but the ending of WandaVision is not only about Wanda learning to overcome grief, an arc which is completely ripped to pieces in Doctor Strange, but that's another video. Wanda also transforms into the Scarlet Witch during the finale and becomes far and away the most powerful main character in the MCU. This is supposed to be a massive moment, but I never felt the significance of it. She gets a cool new costume, she flies away, I close the tab, what else is there to watch? Now compare that to Ragnarok, where Thor goes through an almost identical transformation. I did not have trouble feeling the impact of his new powers moment because it was on the big screen. There were people around me. An immigrant song didn't hurt either. It was a completely different experience. During the Infinity Saga, there were a handful of Marvel TV shows on Netflix that were technically part of the MCU canon, and those shows actually did take advantage of the format. They ignore the wider narrative, they're character centric, and the tone is completely different from traditional Marvel content. If Disney Plus occasionally offered similar types of shows, there wouldn't be any issues. But instead, the executives jumped in with both feet. Phase 4 had 42 hours of MCU content on Disney Plus and only 16 in theaters. And even some of the most important moments were on Disney Plus. The introduction of Kang, who is supposed to be the big bad of the multiverse saga, is done in the Loki series. It's almost mind boggling how irrelevant Disney thought the viewing experience was to their world. And no moment better encapsulates their misjudgment than the one that occurs just a few minutes into the first Loki episode. Loki is attempting to escape the TVA and he stumbles into a bunch of defunct Infinity Stones inside a TVA employee's desk. The employee shrugs off the stones and tells Loki that people around the office use them as paperweights. At the time, some fans were uncomfortable with this scene because Endgame wasn't that long ago in the timeline, so it could feel like the show was saying the stones that Tony and Natasha died for weren't all that important in the grand scheme of things. The scene is included to have that effect on Loki himself. On a personal level for the character, it's not ineffective. But after 23 movies, 23 unique theater experiences, a scene like this should not be happening on the screen of a laptop, because it puts everything we know about the MCU in a new context. There are some fundamental problems with the multiverse from an emotions perspective, which Everything Everywhere All at Once acknowledges. The death and survival of the characters we love feels less impactful when endless versions of them exist in different universes. Nothing truly feels permanent. That is not an easy storytelling challenge to overcome, but if you're going to make the attempt, if you're going to bring entirely different universes into the fold, everything must be done in order for the expansion to be felt. Releasing content on Disney Plus was the opposite prescription. Marvel was not the only Disney property to be hurt by Disney's failure to recognize how important the big screen is to big stories. In 2022, a rematch between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader took place in what should have been a major moment for the world of entertainment. But there was no crowd to energize the duel. There was no surround sound to amplify the power of clashing lightsabers. The showdown felt like a forced gimmick to win Disney Plus subscribers, and it pains me to say that because I desperately wanted that show to be good. Sadly, the genie cannot be put back in the bottle, which has put Disney between a rock and a hard place. The MCU isn't meant for an iPhone or TV. That's even more true following the expansion to the multiverse. But financially, Disney cannot make movie theaters a single portal anymore because too much has been invested in Disney Plus. So as we move through Phase 5 and eventually Phase 6, I think we'll see the current trends continue. The MCU's fan base is so massive that the box office will always be supported to some extent, but the magic will continue to fade away. To quote Tony Stark, every story has an ending. I just wish the MCU's ending could have been as grand and as memorable as the characters they have at their disposal. I know this is just one perspective among many on the current state of the MCU, so thanks for taking the time to hear me out if you've made it this far. And remember to like and subscribe on your way out if you want more content like this in the future. Have a fantastic rest of your day, guys. I will talk to you soon.